Pa, he says, do you think we could build a guitar? He said, oh, kid, we can build anything. He says, and a few months, weeks, or whatever it was later, we built this most gawky-looking thing you ever saw. I mean, it was a horrible sight, but it was a neat instrument. It really was, because it had one neck stretched off this way, one out this way, and again, it was just not what I wanted. So over the next 7 or 8 years, I developed the duo guitar. I sold sold 25 of them to Wholesale Music in San Francisco. I don't know why they ever bought them, because they really were still crude. I still hadn't developed a lot of this stuff. So I still believe to this day, this is when you really can see what this instrument can do with the multiple of two hands and the ability to have wide spacing, electronic mute. It's really, this instrument can do things that I haven't even touched, and I think this is really a major new instrument for the world. Mm-hmm. I really believe that, because it's been designed to get lots of sustain, lots of there's like I said, it's very quiet. It does everything from slide guitar, obviously. Stuff where you can't do that. These fingers are locked in a position. I love guitar, don't get me wrong, because I love regular guitar, because I played it first, and that's what I have built and sold all my life, a lot of those. But this is still my dream, is the touch guitar, and I really believe that its day will come. I'm going to show you the change. That was a high melody. See how you can drive the little... I'm a little nervous here. I'm playing for, but you can see how far you can reach. See, I'm holding a little 7. So it's like, because your hand is this way, you can do anything with your hand, and you can hold multiple chords, like a. It's funny and you can turn your hands. So a lot of songs I'll play like a regular guitar, like a tapping player would play over the shoulder or over the top and the one under. They're doing the same thing I'm doing. They're playing their left hand in the position they can only play, because it's going to be mono or nothing. In other words, and this way you have that 90-degree turn you can do. So you have a little bit of a different option, but it gives you 3 total positions now to play in. And the bass EQ is way down into where you can make that low string here just sound like almost like your low string on the guitars. It's a fun guitar. After about 1985 or 90, I'd go back to Nashville and open for like Barbara Mandrell, Waylon, and different people in what they call Fanfare Week. And it was fun, where I just used their drummer and I'd perform. And I really knew at that point that I had some really strong something going for me, because the instrument at that point would get, I don't mean to tout myself here, but I could go up with songs like some of the ones that I do, and people loved it. I mean, I'd play for 8,000 people. I get standing ovations, which meant that I was introducing something really new to these people that they really loved. But I remember I had a good sound crew. I had Herbie Mandrell, Barbara's dad, up there fidgeting with all the controls, blowing me out of the park. Even if I've been playing, but at that time I knew how to play it a lot better. And I've never been able to record. This is a fact. If I ever could record what I can do on this instrument, it would be amazing, because it is I could do a whole tribute to Les Paul. I do practically every one of his original tunes. That would be a hit. That'd be nice. And Chet Atkins, it's amazing on the Chet Atkins show. It's just so crazy. When you would do when you played his songs, and they were great. I loved his songs. But you had to try to get those bass notes in, when you're playing and try the deal. One note on the bass, simple. can't buy anything to make, like you can go out and buy every part to make a regular guitar 100 times. But you can't do that on this guitar. Every part had to be made and designed for that. For instance, I found out bassists love my individual bridges. In fact, Ibanez, who I'd built guitars for in the 90s, they basically tried to build the individual, but it has to be built right. The individual bridge eliminates. Bassists have a tendency to have a big crosstalk. When you pick that bass string, you know, you have a tendency of having that string. You can feel it in the strings there, especially if you have a common bridge. And I found out that didn't work real good for me, especially in the early stages where I was using more of a manual mute before the 80s. And so in developing that with a bridge, individual pickups, and all the strings separated, so there's actually 10 different systems. Now, each one has its own amplifier in a way. Well, it does, totally. Yeah. When I turn on this string, I'm only turning on that one string. If I play all 10, like I did when I showed that A chord or chord. So what happens is that when you put individual bridges and you put them through the body and you use individual pickups, obviously you mute it the way it is, you eliminate 100% of crosstalk. But when you do it even in a normal bass guitar that's got a full 34th or whatever the scale you're going to have, it eliminates about 50 to 60% of that crosstalk, so that when you pick that big string and you're slapping and you're booming, that string doesn't sound at all hardly. It's amazing when we first measured it on the spectrogram, how we saw the jump of this right down to where that other string just hardly rang. So the bass bridge, that's a nice feature of the bass bridge on the touch guitar. It's always been my dream, and it will be till the end of my life, because I believe, like I said earlier, I believe it is the next major music instrument in the world, because of the capability of being able to play so many ways with both your hands. And the other thing is the electronics, which have been developed, the techniques. You come up with new music too, remember. Everything, you play different chord positions, different things, and you can get chords you could never even believe to. If you had to change your hands for that little riff right there, you'd have to change all your fingers every time. The touch guitar is so neat because you can slide whole chords to the next chord. I mean, you can, because of this, I'm covering the strings this way instead of one string. It's like having one string or six in a lot of ways, because when you can take a ninth chord and go right up to another D chord or C chord in the deal, it really does. Get your little finger. So it's an amazing way to use your finger and difficult chords. I was trying to think of some do one more little, just shorty here. I'll do a little bit of just this one. See, I use my thumb maybe when see how your fingers can be used for so many different ways, so many ways. So, see how my thumb went. See, it's not. Go to C. get the idea of the thing, is the fact that you're so free where you don't have to pick that note. In eliminating the fact of having to think about picking, you can, and the thumb was just really good. It's like, it's so easy to bend on it because, first off, the short reach on the guitar helps bending, obviously. One of the Sons of Pioneers had one and played it, still has it, played it where he used the bass along with the band. I mean, he used the bass just a regular bass, but then he'd go ahead and get special little effects for steel guitar things and stuff, because you can turn around to get that steel guitar sound. G. It's amazing. When you turn your hand, it's amazing. And the wide strings, people say, why do you put such wide strings? I built a guitar for Eddie Van Halen. He could never take it because his guy was sponsored by,
Kramer.
Ernie Ball. Was it Ernie Ball or who was it?
Yeah,
Ernie Ball, yeah.
He did Ernie Ball, he did Kramer.
Yeah, and Kramer, yeah. But I built it more for the fact of experimenting. I built a straight neck standard guitar called the GTX. Put this electronics in it. What it lacked was having a regular pickup too, because this electronics that I use in this guitar will handle a whole pickup. It doesn't handle it on the individual because it's one coil, or two coils, two humbuckers or whatever. So, but the board will turn that off and on the same way. It's just that you turn the whole pickup off. So I mean, if you got one string on, it's on. So if you're playing a chord, it's fine. It plays the whole thing. But when you take your finger off that whole, or on this one, you can play one string and only that string's on. The others stay off. So the minute I show people what I'm doing on the touch guitar and how it's strictly designed to be right in line, the bass is where you want it. The guitar's where it's wanted, the slope frets, I mean, all the little things were things that made it fall into line to where it got easier. And learning it, I sit down with people that never played guitar. And I sit down and I say, okay, grab your guitar and show me this chord. And they try, and even people that have tried to learn certain things, and it's difficult. They can sit down on the touch guitar, play one note, and do that the first time they sit down, They can do this, they can play it. I mean, I'm not saying this is anything you'd want to take to them, but there's a chord. Yeah. Because you're not bending your hand all over the place. You're not having to crunch between little short, quarter-inch, 5/16 inch strings down here. A lot big hands sometimes can't hardly get those chords. You know what I mean? And you're working with 6 strings, doing the same thing you used to do with one this way. So it gives you a lot of things that you can do. So the touch guitar is not a difficult instrument.